Well, you can't turn on the news these days without trying to ask the question, just is the government going too far into our personal lives? And just most recently, the big story about Edward Snowden. And is he a traitor? Is he a hero? There's people on both sides of the fence. But this whole issue about the government snooping into our backyard at new levels, and even the most recent revelation that the IRS now apparently has been snooping in on your medical records long before Obamacare was created, is another scandal that has hit Capitol Hill. Well, we got somebody with us now that hopefully give us a bird's eye view of what this is all about. Katherine Albrecht's with us, Harvard-trained privacy expert who helped develop the StartPage. She's a co-author of top 10 Amazon.com best-selling books. Of course, she got Spy Chips and how major corporations and government plan to track your every move. Wow. Katherine, nice to have you with us. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be on the show, Perry. And I've got to say, privacy is just the smoking hot topic of the week, is it not? It's almost, I wasn't old enough to remember the Watergate era, but I bet it felt a lot like this.
Well, it did. But you know what's so interesting? There's another revelation every day. I mean, the one last night of the IRS now going after medical records, I'm going, okay, just how much has the government crossed the line here?
Well, you know, it's shocking. And what I also think is interesting is that Edward Snowden's revelations about the NSA having backdoors into 9 of the biggest internet companies in the world came right on the heels of the IRS scandal, in which we learned not only, as you're reporting, is the IRS into people's medical records, but the IRS actually going after political opponents by using information they were able to get about them, linking them up with the Tea Party, for example, subjecting them to audits, turning down their tax requests. This is the kind of thing I think that the Founding Fathers were trying to protect us from when they crafted the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the one that said you can't just go on fishing expeditions, because if the government gets information about everybody, the government is nothing more than people, regular people, sinful people, people like you and me who put their pants on one leg at a time, and if they have access to immense power and information about others, they will abuse it. So they try to protect us from that, and now I think we're beginning to see all of that come home to roost.
Well, look, it's really divided the country. I mean, you've got left and right people on one side of the issue, left and right people on the other side of the issue, which is so interesting. And I think it kind of boils down to who do you trust, or what administration would you trust with this information? But all of this has been done under the guise of, well, we're protecting you.
Well, you know, when you mention left and right, this is one issue. Privacy is one issue that transcends all of that. I think liberty transcends all of that as well. And I really think they've given us an artificial dichotomy to keep our attention on one another instead of on the people at the top who are acting in ways that are corrupt. So they can keep us kind of battling the puppet on the left hand, battling the puppet on the right hand of the same entity, then they can keep us from really noticing what they're doing because we're too busy duking it out in the streets against one another. And, you know, in this case, you take a look at how this program got started. Back under the Bush administration, there was warrantless wiretapping. AT&T had built in a secret backdoor to give the NSA access to all of the communications flowing through AT&T in California. So people's phone calls, their emails, their texts, everything they did online was transmitted directly to the government under Bush. And President Obama got himself elected on a platform of saying, things are going to be different. You elect a Democrat. We won't do that. We'll discontinue the program. And now here we come to find out 6 years later that not only has he not discontinued the program, he's expanded it. Mm-hmm. So no longer is this an issue of left or right. This is not a conservative, Republican, progressive, left, right. It's none of that. This is really an issue about the fundamental freedoms that we, the American people, were given through tremendous sacrifice by our founding fathers, who understood that when people get into positions of power and authority, as sinful people, they will abuse that power unless you shackle them, unless you put chains on them, unless you build in checks and balances, and unless you build in openness into the system. So those are our public servants. They work for us. We're supposed to be the boss, not the other way around. And the idea that they're amassing, that they're putting together $1 billion data center now, the NSA, to spy on us even more fully, I have to say is absolutely chilling.
Well, it is. And you kind of wonder, could we ever come up with an agreed upon or a mutual understanding of the difference between liberty and security in today's world? I mean, can this be found?
That's a really good question, because the founding fathers understood that in order to have liberty, you have to put up with a little bit of insecurity. Because if you think about it, what's the worst that terrorists have done? And they've done some terrible things. 3,000 people killed at the World Trade Center. We've got the events right here in Boston at the recent marathon, which killed several people. So yes, terrorists exist, and bad people will always exist. They've existed through all of history. But let's contrast that with what happens when governments gain excessive power over their people. If you look at the 20th century, the most deadly force on planet Earth was government. Mm-hmm. Governments killed 6 times more people than all of the 20th century's wars combined. So you look at somebody like Stalin, who in the Soviet Union murdered 60 million people. You know, his motto, he said, when one person dies, it's a tragedy. When 1 million people die, it's a statistic. So he didn't kill those people because he liked to watch them bleed. He killed those people because they were political opponents, because they threatened his power. And right now, you're already seeing that trend in the U.S., where under this administration, previous administrations, the IRS has been used as an attack tool, and who knows how else these things have been used. This is what Edward Snowden did. He took the lid off of this and showed us that these things are not just for security to stop the handful of terrorists or the Al-Qaeda guys hiding in caves, that this really is about monitoring and spying on every single American so they can tell who opposes them. You know, let me get back to Stalin. The Russian writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn was sentenced to 5 years in a labor camp in the Gulag in the Soviet Union because he had the audacity to criticize Stalin in a letter that he wrote to a friend. Now, this was a piece of paper, he had a pen, he wrote it, he sealed it, he put an envelope on it, he put it in the mail, and the censors were reading.
Okay, well, sorry about that. We were talking to Katherine Albrecht, and she is with us today talking about the whole issue of liberty and privacy and security. Let me encourage you, you may want to check out her organization, StartPage.com. StartPage.com. Are you back with us there? Okay.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
No, that's all right. We only got about 2 minutes. I've got 2 big questions for you. Tell us about StartPage.com, and what can we do about this mess?
So there are 2 responses to this. One is a political response, and we have to not listen to the rhetoric that wants to say that Edward Snowden is a traitor. Edward Snowden is a hero. He is probably our best chance of getting this country back onto the constitutional track that it has veered off of. So I say, go Edward Snowden. I have vowed to say a prayer for him every night. So that's number 1, political change. We need it. We need it now. The second thing is people can do practical things to protect their privacy. I have helped to create a private alternative to Google that doesn't track all your searches or send them to the NSA. It's called StartPage.com. We take your search, you type in whatever you want to look up on Google into StartPage.com. We submit it to Google. We get the results privately. We strip out all the tracking cookies. We serve them to you. And then we delete all records of your visit and delete your IP address.
All right.
And not only is there a huge demand, we just passed 3 million daily searches, so it's soaring through the roof. We have a new product coming out later this summer, which will give people private encrypted email, and that's called StartMail.com. So it's StartPage for the search engine, StartMail for the mail, and that will be available in later this summer. And Dove viewers, if they'd like to check it out, can go to StartMail.com. And if you mention the Dove, we'll go ahead and let people get a free trial account to test it out. StartMail.com. It won't be free. It is a paid service because Google and Yahoo are making you pay with your privacy. And we think people are ready to switch.
All right, StartPage.com, StartMail.com. Check it out and mention the Dove, and she'll give you a little trial. Thank you for doing that, Katherine. And thank you for what you do. You know, it seems to me American people are waking up. They're starting to push back. This thing, the covers are coming off. As nasty as all this smells and looks, it may be a good thing. Finally getting out.
You know, sometimes it has to get dirty before it gets clean. It's like cleaning out your closet. It's all over the room now, but when we put it back, hopefully it looks better than it did before.
That's so true. Hey, thanks, and let's stay in touch how this goes. And again, thanks for the offer. StartPage.com. Check it out. Thanks, Katherine. Okay, and she's with StartPage.com. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.